All right, so this is the final review for stats. This is going over the first two chapters. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. This is mainly going to be a vocabulary kind of focused one because a lot of the first two chapters, as you guys know, were focused on vocabulary and definitions and stuff like that. So first thing we have to know about is continuous versus discrete. So as you all again should sort of remember by now because we've been doing it a lot, continuous is data that you measure. This is measured, and then discrete is data that you count. Okay. So measured data is continuous, counted data is discrete. This is where I'd have you write down some examples of continuous and some examples of discrete, but you guys know how bad my handwriting is, so we're just going to kind of say them here. So continuous data is stuff like weight, height, temperature, stuff like that is all continuous because you measure that. You measure somebody's weight, you measure somebody's height, you measure somebody's temperature, you measure somebody's age, stuff like that. Um, Discrete is more, like I said, counted, so number of people. So this is usually prefixed with the thing of number of. If your phrase starts with number of, that means you're probably doing a discrete type of data. So number of this, number of that, that sort of thing. That's going to almost always be discrete. So observational versus experiment. So observational is sort of hands off. This is hands off. You're not doing anything to the people in particular. You're not conducting an experiment. You're not testing any sort of new chemical or anything like that. You're not doing anything to the people that you are observing, so to speak. Whereas experimental means you're conducting tests, right? You have some sort of experiment, you have some sort of I shouldn't use the word in definition, but you have some sort of chemical or item or something that you're applying and seeing the effects of. So in an experimental setup, you're kind of seeing the effects of something or comparing the effects of something, whereas with observational, you're simply saying, okay, we're going to observe what happens in this situation. So again, experiment it means you do something to the test subjects. Experimental means you don't. So mean, median, mode. So remember, mean is your average, AVG. That is when you add up all the numbers. So you're going to add up all the numbers and then divide by the total number of values that you have, right? So if I have to find the mean of 1, 2, and 3, what you would do is you do 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then you divide by 3 because you have 3 total numbers. The median is the middle number. So that is the middle value of your data set. So once again, if I have the numbers, 2, 4, 1, and 7, and I want to find the median, the first thing I have to do is put them in order. So 1, 2, 4, 7, and then you find the middle. Now, if you kind of go work your way towards the middle, so you cross this one off, cross this one off. If you have two numbers in the middle, what you do is you add them together and divide by 2. So in this case here, you get a median of 3. And then mode is simply the most common occurring number. The mode is kind of special in that you can have data sets like this where you have like 1, 1, 2. The mode in this case would be 1 because it occurs more often. You can have data sets where it's like 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3. In that case, your modes would be 1 and 2 because you have two numbers that occur most often. And again, you can have modes with 3 or 4 or 5 different modes, or you can have no modes like 1, 2, 3. There'd be no mode in that situation because everything just occurs once. So let's apply this data set here. The time it took students to finish a test in minutes. Is it continuous or discrete? Well, normally time is continuous, but in this case, it would actually be discrete for a very small little reason, and that's because you're rounding it to the nearest minute. So you're not, again, and that's kind of a common thing with time too, but you're not, cutting it off there or allowing you to have, um, 40.167890 minutes or whatever. You're cutting off in whole number integer minutes, ergo it's going to be a discrete value by that restriction. Now, if we were allowing for, small details in the minutes, like, small little decimals, then it'd probably be continuous. But if we're going to round it off to the nearest whole minute, that's kind of discrete. Or at least it's more discrete than it is continuous. Mean, median, mode, we can find ourselves here. Now, you can also use your trusty calculator to find that out. So in case you forgot, here's how you do that. You take your calculator, turn it on first. You go to Stat, Edit, and you enter these numbers into your list. So we're going to enter 45, 40, 52, 43, 42, and 44. So you enter those numbers into your list, And then once you have them entered, you're going to go to vars. Nope, sorry, my bad. You're going to go to stat, calculate, one var stats, and then you click enter, and right there, that number is your average. So my average in this case, or my mean, is 44.3 repeating. So 44.3 repeating. And it looks down here, we go down, my median, this is MED here, my median is 43.5. So 43.5. My mode I just have to kind of look at, and in this case I would have no mode here because no number occurs more than anything else. They all occur at least once. So this would be no mode. By the way, don't put a mode as 0 because that means 0 occurs more often, and it clearly doesn't. But these two things you can actually get in your calculator using your stats list because that's why it's there. Quartiles. So quartiles are the middle of middles. So quartiles, like if I have a number data set here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Quartiles are what split this data into 4 equal pieces. So just so you know here, 3 would be my Q2, and then 1.5 would be my Q1, and 4.5 would be my Q3. Now, how did I get those values? Well, Q1 is no different than the median. And Q1 is explicitly stated as the median. Or sorry, my bad. Again, I'm messing up here. Wrong value. So Q2 is the median. That's my apologies there. I apologize. Q2 is my median there. So this right here, that's Q2. And again, you can find the median like we normally do. Q1 is the middle of bottom half. So once I find my Q2, I can split my data in half and then find the Q1 by finding the middle of the bottom set of that. So 3, so from 3 on down, 2 and 1, that's my bottom half. So I find the middle of 2 and 1 right there, and that's my Q1. And then this Q3 is the middle or median of the top half. So once again, what that means is I look at the top half of my list, which is anything above 3. I find the middle, that's Q3. That's my quartile 3 there. And so you can see I have nice even splits there. So I have, if I'm looking at this in terms of, blocks, this splits it into 4 even blocks here. You have 1 block, 2 block, 3 block, 4 blocks, and they're each one number big. So that's how you find your medians, or once again, you can use your calculator. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Actually, you know what? Let me do that now because I forgot I didn't put an example in that. So your Q1, Q2, Q3 actually pop up right here. So the data set we had previously, these would be my quartiles. So let me go back here real quick. Go. So of this data set, quartile 1 is 42, median is 43.5, and Q3 is 45. Now, it might not look like that this time, but that's because these numbers aren't in order yet. If I put these in order, then it'd be pretty clear that these are the medians. But again, you do the same thing. You go to stat, you enter your list, you go to calculate, and then you scroll all the way down, and then these three right here, Q1, median, and Q3 are your Q1, Q2, and Q3. It doesn't say Q2, it just says median. But again, median and Q2, same thing. And then the 5-number summary. So for a box plot, the 5-number summary, there. The 5-number summary is basically all the values you need to make a box plot. And they consist of the minimum, that's the first number, Q1, Q2, and Q3, those are the middle 3 numbers, and the max. If I have these 5 numbers, I can make a box plot. And luckily, like I just showed you, that is actually what you get at the very bottom of your data set list. You have the minimum, Q1, Q2, Q3, and the maximum in that order, no less. So if I wanted to make a box plot of my previous data set right here, what I would do is I would get these 5-number summaries. So 40 and 52 would be my min and my max. So my box plot looks something like this. So here's 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. Okay? So I know my minimum is at 40 and my maximum is at 52. And then my quartiles are what make up my box. So Q1, Q2, and Q3, those are what make up your box. So 42, 43.5, and 45. So 42, 43.5, and 45. So these are my quartiles. So the way I make my box is that Q1 and Q3 get connected, and Q2 is kind of a line down the middle of the box there. Then I connect my ends, and that's my box plot. So again, Q1, Q2, and Q3 are my three boxes, or three dots in the middle that make my box. And then the min and the max are what make my edges. So again, if I ask you to, on a study or on a final or something, I might say, okay, here's your data set, match it with the correct box plot below. And so what you're looking for is making sure that your numbers here are correct in terms of their values. So making sure that this is at 40, that this is at 52, and that these three quartiles are right. And then we have the sampling types to finish this off here. So these were one of the big things that we did the first two chapters. Convenient sampling means you take stuff that's easy. So easy samples. Right? So this would be like a teacher sampling their students, or like a person sampling their family members, or again anything that's sort of quick and easy to get. Employer sampling their employees, for instance. Systematic. So systematic means you have some sort of a system to determine how many people you're going to pick or who people you pick. And usually this is every blank number. So this would be like every second person that walks into the mall, or every third person that comes into the classroom, or every fourth person, or every fourth house, excuse me, every fourth house, I can't speak, every fourth house, there we go, every fourth house that you drive by, or every 10th person that you see in the swimming pool or something like that. That's systematic. You have every blank number, that's the person that you choose. Now again, as I said, this often isn't actually every second number. Like if you say I'm going to interview every other student that walks into the door, do you actually get every other student? Probably not, but you aim to. Right? Stratified and clustered. These are ones that get often confused because they're very similar, but they have one key difference. So stratified and cluster, or stratified and cluster, both involve splitting your data into groups. So you split into groups, and here you also split into groups. The difference here is that for stratified, what you do is you take a bit of each. So in stratified, you take a bit of each group. In cluster, you take only from a few. So again, stratified means that you take a little bit from each. You're taking kind of a wide sample of all different categories, whereas cluster, it means you're only focused on a few. So for example, let's say I split a class into freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And I want to take a sample of those. Well, if I take a few freshmen, let's say I take 10 freshmen, 6 sophomores, 12 juniors, and 9 seniors, that'd be stratified because I'm taking a little bit of each group. But if I just say, instead of taking it from these, what if I just say I'm going to take 12 seniors and 12 freshmen? Well, that would be cluster because I'm focusing in on just two groups here, not every group. Basically, if you're excluding one group, then it's technically a cluster sampling, not a stratified sampling. Right? Because again, cluster means that you're focusing on just a few rather than every single group individually. So let's see if we can't identify which is which here. So sampling 30 randomly selected, should say point from each state. So sampling 30 randomly selected people, I believe, from each state. Well, if you're taking it from each state, that means this is going to be stratified. Okay? Strat, I should say. This is a stratified sampling. This is, I'm going to go back here. This is stratified. Okay? Because you're taking a little bit from each state. You're breaking it into clusters because you're breaking it into states, which are kind of like little groups, and then you're taking a little bit of each. So that's stratified. Sampling everyone on your most frequently texted list. Well, this sounds like it'd be more convenience. I'll put CO in there for con. This would be more convenience because again, if you're frequently texting them, that means you probably have frequent contact with them and they're probably easy to get in contact with and like I said, take a sample or a survey of. So that would be again quick and easy to do, convenience. Surveying all the juniors and freshmen at a high school. Well, again, we have four groups of people, right? We have juniors, sophomores, seniors, and freshmen. And if we're just taking the juniors and the freshmen, that'd be cluster. because we're focusing in on just two groups here. And then surveying every fifth student coming out of the lunchroom, well, that would be systematic because we have a system. Every fifth student, every whatever. If you ever hear the word every blank something, that'd be systematic sampling because again, you have a system or a procedure with which to do that. So that's it for this one here. Again, it was just kind of a quick recap of the key terms and stuff from chapters 1 and 2. Next up, we will hit the next two sections. Again, I have 6 of these here, one for kind of each section that we went over, because we kind of gone over 6 or 7 sections, depending on how you count them. So hopefully that will be enough to help us review us for the final. If you have any questions, as always, let me know via email. We can get in contact with Zoom to help you out. Um, and then I'll try to sprinkle in some unique opportunities in these videos as you watch them to kind of keep things interesting and lively. So we'll see what I come up with. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day.